Hello everyone, and welcome back to NT Coins World. Today we have an exciting deep dive into two Washington quarters that have made a name for themselves in the world of coin collecting, the 1965 and 1973 Washington quarters. These coins may seem ordinary to the casual observer, but there's so much more to discover beneath the surface, especially for collectors and investors. Let's start with the 1965 Washington quarter. Now, the 1965 Washington quarter isn't one of the first dates that come to mind when you think of rare or valuable coins. But as we dig deeper into its mintage, the conditions it was struck under, and the potential varieties and errors it might present, you'll understand why this coin can carry some serious value. As you may already know, the Washington quarter has a long history, going back to 1932. However, the 1965 issue comes in the midst of significant changes in U.S. coinage production. During this time, the United States was in the midst of a major shift in its coinage design, particularly the composition of its coins. In 1965, the mint transitioned away from using 90% silver in most circulating coins due to a silver shortage and the rising price of silver. The result was the introduction of a 40% silver composition for half dollars, while quarters and dimes were made entirely from copper-nickel clad. While the 1965 Washington quarter does not feature silver, its significance is tied more to its historical context than its material. The mint produced over 1.8 billion 1965 Washington quarters, now in fine condition, meaning it has moderate wear, but the design elements are still clearly visible. This coin isn't a rarity in itself. However, the real intrigue comes when we consider the potential errors and varieties this coin might have. One of the most sought-after varieties from the 1965 series is the double die error, where certain coins were struck with multiple impressions, leading to doubled features on the obverse, particularly in the word liberty or in God we trust. These doubled die errors are much rarer and can fetch upwards of $50,000 to $70,000 if they're found in high grades or in fine condition, where the details are still legible but have worn down slightly. As for the market value of a regular 1965 Washington quarter, in fine condition you're likely to see prices range between $3 to $10, but with the right error or variety, that price can skyrocket. It's always a good idea to carefully inspect your coin for any signs of doubling or other anomalies that could increase its value. Always remember that the 1965 Washington quarter serves as a reminder of a turning point in U.S. coinage history. So even if it's not a high-value coin in its standard form, it still holds a place of interest for collectors who focus on key dates or transitional periods in the mint's production history. The second coin. Now let's transition to the next coin in our discussion, the 1973 Washington quarter. By 1973, the U.S. Mint had already moved further away from silver, with quarters now being made entirely of copper-nickel clad. The 1973 Washington quarter has a somewhat less dramatic backstory than the 1965 issue, but that doesn't mean it's without its own points of interest. Just like the 1965 quarter, the 1973 version was produced in large quantities, totaling nearly 500 million pieces, making it fairly common to find in circulation. However, in terms of historical context, the 1973 Washington quarter was part of a series that continued through the 1970s, reflecting the political and economic climate of the time. The early 1970s was a period of economic instability, with inflation on the rise and the US government grappling with both domestic and international challenges. The coinage from this time reflects that era's design and material choices, which were largely a response to the changing economy and fluctuating precious metal prices. Much like the 1965 Washington quarter, the 1973 issue, when found in fine condition, generally won't be worth a fortune in its base form. A 1973 Washington quarter in fine condition would likely be worth around $3 to $5. But as with any coin, it's crucial to look for specific varieties or errors that could elevate the value. In the case of the 1973 quarter, there have been a few notable errors, particularly D mint mark varieties, where some coins were struck with a partially erased mint mark, which makes them more desirable to error coin collectors. These errors might boost the value to as much as $30 or more, depending on their rarity and condition. One of the more interesting aspects of the 1973 quarter is its association with the larger scope of US coinage during the 1970s. This coin is part of a larger set of quarters that reflect the country's shift away from the use of precious metals, which began in the mid-20th century. It's interesting to note that in 1973, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for more than 4 decades, making it an iconic symbol of American currency. Despite its high mintage, the 1973 Washington quarter, like many coins from this era, has become a popular coin among collectors who are focused on completing sets or searching for unique error coins. It's also a great example of how market value can shift depending on a variety of factors, including the state of the economy, the size of the mintage, and the prevalence of certain error types. So while this coin may not be worth a lot in its basic form, finding the right variety or error could make it a highly valuable addition to a collection. So what's the bottom line? Both the 1965 and 1973 Washington quarters may not be the rarest coins in terms of sheer scarcity, but they have unique historical significance and the potential for higher value due to errors or special varieties. Whether you're looking for a piece that represents a turning point in US coinage history or a coin that might feature an intriguing error, these Washington quarters are definitely worth considering for your collection. Always keep an eye out for those subtle details that could make a huge difference in value. Before we wrap up today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new deep dive into the world of coins. Also, let us know in the comments if you've ever come across a 1965 or 1973 Washington quarter, or if you've spotted an error or variety that made your coin hunting adventure a bit more exciting. Thank you so much for tuning in to NT Coins World. We'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue to explore the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins. Until then, happy collecting.